Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Friday, August the 11th, 2023. Today I am putting out two videos. I'm also going to be putting out a video about Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to attempt to predict when he's going to die. What else? I'm going to look at how he relates to the Saturn-Uranus cycle. So that's in a second video, and there is going to be a link to that second video in the pinned comments on this video, just in case you can't find it through other means. So what I'm going to do in this video is entirely look at today, which is Friday, August the 11th, 2023. So this is the positions of the planets for today. I'm afraid there's no picture, top right. I mean, I may be moving back to my previous format tomorrow, but this is just an experiment. So we can see that at noon in New York, the moon was at 26:30 Gemini. So the moon is about to go into Cancer. Now, when it goes into Cancer rather depends where you are. So if you're in London, the moon will go into Cancer at 11:52 p.m. today. So you're only going to have 8 minutes of the moon in Cancer. So you have better stay up late. I don't know what you're planning on doing in the last 8 minutes of the day if you're in London, and how you want to take advantage of the moon being in Cancer. If you're in Paris or anywhere further east from there, forget it. The moon is not going to be in Cancer today, so we don't even have to worry about that. If you're in New York, the moon goes into Cancer at 6:52 p.m. If you're in Los Angeles or Seattle, it goes in to Cancer at 3:52 p.m. So it's really, moon in Cancer is only relevant if you're in the Americas. So if you are in the Americas, then this evening you may experience a sort of a change of pace. Things may become a little slower. There may be more emphasis on feelings, sort of less emphasis on talking, thinking, that kind of thing. Now, as far as what happens with the moon in Gemini, it's still a time when for most of us, there's going to be a great chunk of the day, moon in late Gemini, when we've got a lot to think about, a lot to talk about, but we shouldn't really have any expectations that anything spectacular is going to happen, because the moon. The moon is, it's making a 90-degree square aspect to Neptune, but Neptune is an outer planet. So there might be sort of a creeping confusion as the day progresses. It might be difficult to apply ourselves to anything. Indeed, we shouldn't expect to finish anything. I mean, we might have projects that we want to get done, but we're not going to accomplish them, I don't think. We're going to need to have a longer time frame on that. So don't expect to achieve wonders today. It just isn't that kind of day. I think we can get on okay with other people, but nothing dramatic. For some of us, we should probably avoid thinking too much. That is because there's Mercury in Virgo, is opposition the Saturn-Neptune midpoint. So, when you've got Mercury opposition the Saturn-Neptune midpoint, if we think too much, we're going to start having irrational fears, because Saturn and Neptune together are about fear, is often about fears, paranoias, concerns about what might go wrong. So this could be a feature of the way our minds are working today. We're suddenly thinking, well, what can go wrong? What hidden danger might engulf us? So that might be a theme of Mercury on the Saturn-Uranus midpoint. Mercury on the Saturn-Neptune midpoint. At the same time, the North Node, the node here, it's quite close to the Mars-Saturn midpoint. It's making a semi-square to the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So that's more perhaps about society in general, how we relate to other people. Yes, I think in general we should be able to relate okay to other people because, the moon is making a sextile aspect to Venus. I mean, it's not a very close sextile aspect, but it's still there. That should help us relate to other people. But with the node on semi-square Mars Saturn, some of the people we're involved with might really have a quite negative view of the world, and we might experience people who may be in some way traumatized or who are concerned about death. Meeting people in a graveyard, I mean, node, semi-square Mars Saturn midpoint. What contacts can you make if you hang around in graveyards? Well, I mean, that's not such a trivial question. I don't live in London any longer, but London has some great graveyards if you get a chance to visit them. Yeah, I mean, Highgate Cemetery, long ago you could visit it quite easily, but it's now difficult to get into. But yeah, so yeah, meeting people in Gothic graveyards, if you happen to be somewhere where there are Gothic graveyards. But yeah, the connections we have with other people could be difficult in the sense that there are going to be things on their mind. And that chimes with what I was saying about Mercury on the Saturn-Neptune midpoint. There is a bit of fear in the air. I think the fear is almost certainly irrational. So maybe what we have to do is confront people's fears and try to untangle them. But Moon in Gemini is actually not very good at confronting fears because Moon in Gemini just talks and talks and talks and finds it really quite difficult to get at the underlying issues. So if you meet people who've got these underlying fears I'm talking about, it's not going to help just by talking. You've got to sort of keep quiet and listen and work out the best strategy for diffusing these fears. So now I'm going to move to my forecasts for the 12 signs. So here they are, my forecast for today, which is Friday, August the 11th, 2023. Aries, there is nothing more that has to be said. You have made your point, and now you have to wait for other people to respond. Overall, a lot of people are impressed by your actions so far, and you just have to be yourself and not think too far into the future. Besides, most people have already made up their mind. Taurus, you'd be surprised how many people rely on you. You are always there, come sun, wind and rain. I suppose it's connected with your fundamental reliability, not to mention the fact that Venus, your ruler, is moving retrograde through Leo. This means that you can start benefiting from a situation and your simple requests are likely to receive a favourable response. Gemini, in some respects, your work is almost done, at least in terms of one particular project or some area that you have been focusing on. You can now get ready for new challenges. But getting ready is the operative term. Now is probably not the right time for taking new initiatives. And while you're at it, start thinking about how much everything is going to cost. Cancer, you're starting to feel impatient. You feel that you should be doing something and not waiting for other people to respond. But you shouldn't worry. Things are moving your way, and it won't be long before the environment fully responds to your many charms. And remember, timing is everything. Leo, in some respects, you've seen enough, at least for the time being. You have the information you need, and you understand what makes the key people in your life tick. You can therefore take some time to assess the situation, and you shouldn't feel the need to assert yourself. And sometimes Leo can be lazy without having to give an excuse. Virgo, you're wondering what is going to happen next, and you might feel a certain trepidation, but perhaps you are overthinking the situation. When one moves from one place to another, there is always going to be a change, and there's no reason for the change to be negative. Indeed, it's probably just a natural progression. Libra, there is an underlying purpose behind the day's events. Even if the events seem completely trivial, you're being pushed in a certain direction, and perhaps the universe is giving you important information. And at some stage, you have to see the overall picture and understand your overall destiny, or at least your destiny for the rest of the month. Scorpio, it's soon time to go into eagle mode. In other words, moving from behind or under a rock and soaring into such a position that you can see everything and understand the fundamental relationship between the many and various components of the world in which you live. There is no place for pettiness or revenge. Sagittarius, relationships continue to absorb your attention, but they are in the process of change, developing new dimensions and becoming more complicated. You might not want the complications, but nothing in life is simple, particularly your fellow human beings. If there is an emotional wave, try to stay with it. Capricorn, there is a certain inevitability to people's behaviour. They think they have free will, but you can see exactly where they are going. You can even work out the process by which they change their minds. But I'm not suggesting that you be manipulative. It's just that when you know the short-term future, you can feel more secure. Aquarius, how much can you do on your own? And at what stage do you bring in outside help? These are important questions as you navigate the day and its events. You do what you can, but if something is over your head, you feel comfortable consulting an expert. Self-reliance may be an overstated virtue. Pisces, today you are feeling a bit lethargic, and you may find that it is difficult to accomplish everything on your list. You should probably accept the situation. It won't last long, but for the moment you might not have what it takes to finish things off. But you really should decide what your number one talent is, because soon you're going to need it. So I'm now going to move to the I Ching. And, as always, I threw 3 coins in the air and I asked the question, what is Friday going to be like for visitors to my YouTube channel? And the first hexagram I threw was hexagram number 11, which is peace. Now, you can see why this is about peace. The bottom lines are unbroken. So that's like heaven. It's the creative, and it's down here on earth, heaven on earth. Likewise, the receptive, these 3 broken lines are all in the sky. They're all almost heaven and earth have they are in each other's space, and so that gives us that does give us a sense of peace, that things are all in order. But there are some moving lines. This line here moves. The I Ching says that it reminds us that everything is a cycle. So if you're feeling that everything is in order, just remember that's where we are at this particular stage of the cycle. Things will change. This state of peace that we're in is not going to last forever. Inevitably, peace will transition into chaos, and chaos will transition into peace. So we're not going to be here forever. So make the most of the situation, but prepare for chaos, which is inevitably going to come. Now, that's just not a gloomy prediction. It's just a I Ching saying this is the way of the world. This is the cycle we're in. So when everything is great, when everything is in order, when people aren't fighting, that's nice, but it's not going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. Everything is in a state of change, and that's, I suppose, is the whole concept of the I Ching, which is the book of change. The fifth line here also moves, and in keeping with this concept that the heaven is below and earth is above, this is perhaps talking about social boundaries. And I mean, I know that I'm from the UK. It's supposed to be a very class-based society, but I mean, in the United States, I think the United States is just as class-based as the UK. People talk about all the racial divisions, but in fact, a lot of the divisions in the US they are about class. Actually, I actually got round to reading To Kill a Mockingbird a few years ago, and what really got me about that book was there was a racial element, but it was also about class. It was also about the class structure in this town, in wherever it was, Alabama, and that was really what it was about. So, but in terms of class, it's about the interaction between people of different social from different social backgrounds, and what it's saying is that people of an higher social background are kind of mixing with a lower social background, and we, depending on our background, we need to perhaps accept some kind of reversal. So it may be that we think we have high status, but we might find ourselves in a high status position having to perhaps take orders from someone from a low status position, or vice versa, and that is completely natural. So if you're king of England, for example, or some lord or whatever, don't be afraid of taking orders from a peasant. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but just don't get hung up by class or social order and expect it to be reversed, but in a very healthy way. I mean, this is not a bad thing. It's because it is about the higher becoming lower and the lower becoming higher, and that is integral to this concept of this hexagram 11, which is about peace. And it does move. It moves to hexagram number 60, which is limitation. We can be at peace, but how can we be at peace? And that means understanding our limitations. This hexagram number 60 is almost, it is completely at odds with the sort of New Age, you can be who you like kind of approach. No, you can't be who you like. We have certain talents, we have certain abilities, and we have a duty. And that actually gives us our freedom. If we believe we can do anything under the sun, we're not free. We're in a state of chaos. I think that's what the I Ching is saying about this limitation. We have to understand what our duty is. Yes, we're at peace at the moment. Everything is in order for the moment. It won't last forever. And in this situation, we need to take advantage of the situation by following our duty and by working within our talents. It's not a time for thinking we've got some other talent, but we just really don't have. We're just kidding ourselves. You know how it is. You get some people saying anyone can be a psychic. Anyone can climb Everest. Uh, Anyone can be a healer. Anyone can be a whatever. No, it's not true. This is talking about what we're born with, and not going beyond that. And I don't mean that in a sort of sense of social order. It's more, it's the talents we've got. We need to work within those talents and be limited by it, because limitation is it's the boundaries we need. If we move beyond our boundaries, it's just chaos. We get nowhere, and we have no freedom whatsoever. So, when looking at what's going on today, work within those boundaries. It's not a restriction, it's actually a freedom, because when we work within our boundaries, we can maximize our potential. So that's all I'm going to say for today. And I will talk to you tomorrow.